check it.
Yeah. So when we're singing, one of the things that will make our voices much more beautiful is finding more space on the inside of our mouths or inside of our vocal tracts. So our vocal tract begins with the bottom of the larynx and ends with the lips. And we're always, as singers, looking for ways of expanding the vocal tract to create more space for a more beautiful sound. So we're going to talk about our soft palate today. Sorry. It's kind of unpleasant and kind of gross, but if you put your tongue on the roof of your mouth, right behind your upper front teeth, you can feel that the roof of your mouth is hard, right, with the tip of your tongue, and that's called your hard palate. If you slide your tongue backwards towards your throat, can you feel when the texture
Spongy.
changes? So when you slide your tongue backwards towards your throat, you can feel the texture change to soft, and that is your soft palate. So your soft palate can move, but your hard palate cannot, because it's hard. And your uvula, the little deal that dangles down at the bottom of your soft palate, is the end of the soft palate. So this is like a cross section of like this is the uvula right here, dangling down in the back of your throat. It looks like the middle part of an M if you are looking in your throat. So I'm going to show you my soft palate. So I'm going to show you how my uvula looks when it's just dangling like normal. And then I'm going to raise my soft palate, which will make my uvula retract up into itself. And you'll also see the soft palate rise. This happens naturally anytime we yawn. So that's regular. Can you see it okay?
Yeah.
Okay, and now I'm going to lift my soft palate.
It's like it almost just, like uvula almost disappears altogether. Yeah.
And so it's always really important to find labels to describe the sensations that we're feeling when we're singing, because we can't, it's not like piano where I can be like, oh, your knuckles are flat. Do this so your knuckles are curved. Like, I can't see.
Right.
While you're singing, I can't see. And so all I know is what you sound like and what I think is probably causing the sound and what you could change to make the sound more beautiful. So labeling sensations is really important for voice. So the sensations I feel, like when I just lifted my soft palate like that, there actually is an Italian term for this in singing. I think it's il vomitore. The feeling like you're about to gag is actually a good sign.
That makes sense.
It's unpleasant, but yes, that can be a sensation that a lot of people get that shows they're really opening up in the back. Another feeling is the sensation like right before you yawn. Another way of finding this feeling is to close your lips like this, and then fill your cheeks up with air, and then try to push the air out of your cheeks. Yeah, see how the air is coming out of your lips like involuntarily. That shows, the other word for soft palate is velum. That shows that your velum is lifted, which blocks the little hole in your palate that allows air or drainage to come down from your nose into your trachea. So that's a good sign that your soft palate is up. And if you do that again and notice the sensation you feel on the inside of your mouth when your mouth is full of air, so the labels I would give would be, I feel pushing. The air is pushing against the tissues on the inside of my mouth and causing the tissues to expand outward because the air is pushing outward. We're creating air pressure inside of the mouth. That is a great sensation, but not so much for our cheeks. We're not thinking about that as much, but if you can like kind of squeeze the air backwards so the air is pushing against the back of your throat and you feel the expansion in the back of your throat, or pharynx is the fancy word for throat, that is perfect. That's
Okay.
that feeling of like the stretching open in the back of the throat is what we want. And there are reasons for this. Like you can think of a cathedral dome like this. The sound goes up, spins around, comes back down, and sounds more beautiful. So we're trying to create this dome in the back of our mouth where that same thing can happen on a micro scale that we see in a big cathedral. You can also think of bouncing a basketball on asphalt, which is a very hard surface. The ball just bounces so easily. Whereas if you try to bounce the basketball on top of like a squishy bed that's soft, the ball's not going to bounce. So we have all these squishy, soft tissues in our mucosal membrane, and we want to stretch those tissues as taut as we can because the sound waves can bounce around more efficiently on a firm surface as opposed to like the squishy inside of our mouths the way we normally are.
So is the goal to like, I think this is one thing I'm struggling with, is the goal to basically try and hold that position statically, or is there going to be like some natural ebb and flow? I mean, I know there has to be like some level of movement, but if we were to go to one extreme or the other, are we trying to keep that as wide as possible, as often as possible, with as little fluctuation? Or as we are, doing different vowels or different sounds, or like kind of like closing the note, does that ebb and flow?
That's a very good question to ask. People don't usually ask that. It's a really good question. So it's a little bit of both, I would say, in my opinion. And not every voice teacher would give the same answer. Voice, even like from a medical standpoint, like if you see a speech pathologist or a laryngologist, there's definitely a lot of art and unknown in the field still. So you don't always get the same answer when you ask different experts. Not that I'm saying I'm an expert, but
You're an expert.
Oh, thank you. But I've asked many experts these kinds of questions, and you don't get the same answer.
Okay.
So I'll tell you my thoughts, which is all I can share. When I'm singing, so I've had a lot of vocal health issues because of a more constricted pharynx due to tension. And so when I sing, I am really focusing on, from my inhale, opening, like we talked about before, and maintaining that stretched open space as wide as I can for the entire duration of the phrase.
Okay.
Which is challenging. But at the same time, obviously, yes, we're saying all these different vowels and different sounds, and usually when I'm practicing, I'm singing in foreign languages, so there's even like more vowel sounds than in English. So yes, there will be changes. You're naturally, the vocal tract will lengthen and shorten and widen and contract, and the different components within the vocal tract will do those same kind of motions, bigger, smaller, wider, narrower, and that's fine. And what I feel is not always going to necessarily be the same way you feel, and you can't feel what I'm feeling. I can't feel what you're. That's why voice is so tricky.
But that still makes sense that, like, as a super novice, to get fundamentals down, if I was going to try and over exaggerate one or the other, over exaggerate this way,
I would, yes, for now. Going to an extreme is always tricky with voice, but you could think of it that way this week, and we could kind of see what happens next week. But if you feel comfortable, go ahead and take the flashlight and let's see what you can do. So find your uvula so we can see it. Yeah, you might have to tilt your head down. There we go, there we go. That's a good view. Okay, now can you lift up? Think of yawning. I'm gonna listen on this side. Maybe tilt your head forward a little bit.
Forward.
So the light. A little more up. It's not really going up so far. Oh, there you go. There you go.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. So, what sensations did you feel when you did that?
A stretching sensation.
Yes.
I think it's more exaggerated than I would have even expected. I do have that yawning sensation when I'm practicing the straight pipe, which I hope I'm saying that correctly finally. But I do like literally yawn. Like I have trouble literally not yawning whenever I'm doing it. But
so when I was in college and with my first voice teacher, Mrs. Ruffin, she had a practice chart, and yawn was one of the exercises we had to do every week or every day when we practiced. So finding that sensation of a yawn is a really legitimate pursuit.
Well, I found it. It's getting it to stop before the yawn happens is the problem.
And same with the gag sensation. It's like right before the yawn, right before the gag, that feeling you feel right before the true onset. That is the sensation we're looking for. And you can also imagine, like, if you're blowing up a balloon and the balloon accidentally, like, you lose control and the air like rushes into your mouth. Have you ever had that happen before? That feeling of the air pushing the tissues back like that. If you can achieve that sensation, or like the lips closed with the air in the cheeks pushing backwards sensation, those are all the sensations to look for that you can maybe focus on this week. Okay.
Okay.
You have any questions?
I think that sounds clear.
And if you practice with a flashlight in the mirror, like maybe just like a few seconds at the beginning of each session, like try to find it. Notice again, like, okay, this feels, when I see in the mirror what the uvula retraction looks like, these are the sensations I'm feeling. Because of course when you're actually performing, you're not going to have a mirror. Even if you did, you can't like look
literally
while you're
see,
singing. And so the first step is to be able to lift the soft palate while you're not singing. But like voluntarily choose to lift. And then the next step will be to be able to lift while you are singing. And then eventually, hopefully, the lift and the expansion just becomes your
kind
default.
of organic.
And you almost don't even have to think about it anymore. But it's a long path to that point.
Yeah,
So,
I can tell.
Great job. 2 thumbs up for the soft palate.